So, any additions or deletions to the agenda? I have none.
None for me.
None.
Okay, motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Motion.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll do this 3 times just to be sure there's no complaints. Can I have a motion to approve the 3 sets of minutes here? We'll do one at a time.
All right, motion to approve December 21st, 2021 regular commission meeting minutes.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion to approve the minutes of November 15th, 2021 special meeting.
Support?
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion to approve the minutes of October 21st, 2021 special meeting.
Support?
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving right along. We do have a light agenda. It shouldn't take us too long tonight. Can we start with the monthly report? Oh, and Jessica, thank you very much for straightening out our agenda format.
Hello. I'd like to start with the just some staffing updates. So we had since the last meeting, we've had 2 officers off on COVID. I'm one of them. Today's my first day back, and another officer that was off on a personal medical issue has returned also. So we have all of our officers back except for Lieutenant Pellin, which is the first time in a long time that we've had all of us back at one time. So hopefully we can keep those numbers up.
Mr. King out there on his own now, right? Yeah.
Good job. So still learning, doing a good job. So these kind of going into some numbers here.
Yeah, you can just hit the highlights.
This is calls for the month of December, 937 calls. That's about standard for the whole year. And then this right here is our monthly stats, but with the year-end totals compared to 2020. You can see 2020 on the bottom right there.
Thank you for that, by the way.
You're welcome.
That's very helpful, and it helps us see whether or not, we're making headway or not,
The only things I could point out for significance is the verbal warnings are up, and then the accidents have also gone up for the month, and the security notices have gone down. Have gone up for the year, and the accidents have gone up for the year, and the verbal warnings have gone up for the year, and so have the alert citations. So that's the only significant change, and then the rest of that data in the yellow, that's for the month of December. So.
On the verbal warnings, I've never asked this before, I don't think, but has there been any notable mood change on this from our citizens that the officers have commented on?
I think it's the same as most stops. The only difference is more verbal warnings. With COVID, you try to maybe pass on some advice to slow down versus getting into it. So, yep.
Okay.
So this is our annual report for this 20 and 21. It's kind of the same data, but it kind of gives it a little bit more overview. So if you see in 2020, we had 12,000 calls roughly, and then we had almost 11,000 in 21. So the call volume went down, but if you look at the notes here, that some of the things have gone up and down. Our notices to appear, it's about the same. Verbal warnings has gone up. It's like the last one. Miles driven for the year have gone down. A couple different arrests the same. OWIs are about the same. And the traffic accidents have gone up over from 21 from 20. So do you have any questions on that? So this is compiled of all the data for the year and comparing it to 2020. Any questions on that?
Anything of note that you want to make a comment on?
No, I mean, the accidents had gone up, but you're gonna see later on, it doesn't reflect in the deer accidents later on, so.
I mean, really, all of the interactions have gone up, right?
If you look at the, let's go for 2020 for the detectives. There's 71 complaints that they had worked on for the year, and you see there's 128, and that involves more school complaints that they've had to take on this year too. Detective Vasquez is a primary one for the schools now, assisted by Detective Darzniak. So that's being compiled in that too for some school complaints and more complaints this year. And the arrests have gone up from 70 and 20 to 99. There's no way to explain that, it just happens. So we had no significant events that caused more arrests. Any questions on that? The vehicle fleet, I'm not gonna go too much into the stats on this, just gonna say that right now, all the cars are back up and running. We've had some cars that have been in and out of the shop for various reasons. Actually, we do have one, 7. 7's getting its engine swapped out because the engine had seized on it during that big rainstorm we had about a month ago, and the insurance company wants to replace the motor. So they're gonna replace it. So it's got 77,000, I think the new motor's got 35,000. Sergeant Brozak's handling that vehicle. So here's the traffic summary.
Go back to this field activity again. I just wanted to point out real quick, just so everybody knows,
One right here.
I pulled up from December of 2019, and we're actually below the 2019 activity across the board by quite a bit.
So 19 was higher.
20 was a lot lower just because of COVID, because that was the primary year for COVID. And I do remember that, that's why I pulled it up. So just so everybody knows, 20 was an odd year for numbers.
21 is still an odd year. Like right now, it's the surge that's going on. We're kind of handling business back in the 2020 mode, how we handled it versus, I remember 19, working the street, that we had a lot of activity. We had a lot of OWI arrests. That summer, we had a lot that summer, so. Is there any more follow-up questions on that? Mr. Longton? The last thing I wanted to show is the traffic summary. And this kind of goes, I know we asked a lot about the deer call questions. So if you look at 19, 102 crashes versus 85. Actually, that number is supposed to be 73. That's a mistake. That's supposed to be 73 and 124. If you look over at the deer, the deer crashes had gone down from 19 to 20. It stayed about the same between 20 and 21, but the crashes had gone up. But that doesn't reflect on the deer. So the crashes go up, but they're not being caused by the deer. So you can kind of look at the crashes. So if that makes any sense.
Since you brought it up, any comments on the deer call?
I'm gonna let Sergeant Brozak, he's been handling the administrative part of the deer calling, so I'm gonna let him go with that, so. I'll come back and do the budget later on, at the end of it, following the agenda. Any question on the stats for the year and for the month of December? All right, thank you.
Good evening. So we're going to start with the detective report. compiled and prepared by Detective Vasquez, if everybody can see that. Everybody in the audience, can you see that okay? So, for the month of December, we had a total of 29 complaints. 10 were assigned to the Detective Bureau. 10 of those were cleared. We have 4 active and 6 inactive. So year-to-date, total was 128. 10 of those were cleared by patrol. Warrant arrest, 1, and then DB warrant arrest year-to-date is 15. Some of the highlights, is there a question? I thought I heard something, okay. Some of the highlights, there was an OWI accident. Groseal, the police department responded to a vehicle in the ditch at Meridian and Ferry. Officers investigated and found the driver of the vehicle was intoxicated and admitted to consuming alcohol shortly before operating his vehicle. Standard field sobriety tests were performed and failed. A PBT was taken with results of .109. Driver was arrested for OWI and consented to the data master with the result of .12. OWI citation was issued and forwarded to 33rd District Court. Suspicious situation. Groseal Police Department took a report from a resident who received an Apple phone notification stating unknown device detected near you. Notification displayed a map which tracked the complainant's vehicle's movements from Groseal to Monroe. Officers checked the complainant's vehicle for a possible Apple AirTag device. No such device was found. The Detective Bureau followed up with Apple, who stated that the complainant's phone may have synced with a nearby Apple AirTag that would have tracked a phone. A search of the AirTag was conducted the following day. At this point, no Bluetooth AirTag was attached to the complainant's phone. If you're not familiar with what an AirTag is, it's for marking personal property. It looks like this. It gives you positioning on whatever you place that tag on. If you're not familiar with it, when things like this are created, they have good intention, but somebody else always finds another purpose for it, whether it's tracking an individual or for whatever they may use it for. But this is what it looks like. It's very small, maybe about this big. It just looks like a coin. There was an assault. Groseal responded to a call on an assault. Officers' investigation found that there was a family argument that resulted in an elder uncle punching the adult nephew twice. Nephew chose to prosecute against the uncle, who was then arrested for the assault. Warrant recommendation was immediately approved by the local prosecutor, and the uncle was arraigned the following morning at 33rd District Court. And then final school threat via social media. Groseal Police Department received information from the high school principal regarding a disturbing TikTok post. The investigation found that the screenshot post from TikTok group Hit Week listed Groseal, not spelled Groseal, but that's how it was actually spelled, Grosale, was a target. The screenshot post was found days after the tragic Oxford High School incident and was shared by several Groseal residents on several social media platforms. The Detective Bureau was able to identify and speak with the original individuals who had found and shared the screenshots. Confirmation was also made with other local law enforcement agencies that not only was the threat not credible, but it was a copy of a post from several years ago. Due to the uptick in copycat threats, additional police presence has been made at all the school buildings during school hours. Any questions on any of that? And we expected an uptick. Next is the juvenile report. As you can see, we had actually more this time, mostly dealing with threats and bullying. December 28th, the FBI investigators met with Detective Bureau to discuss a threat that was made to EA Sports in California, online from a 15-year-old male that attends Groseal High School. Threat made was off-island from a residence and did not reference any student, staff member, or property on Groseal. The investigators spoke with the student's family and found that the threat not to be credible. An inquiry into the student's contact with Groseal PD and school discipline was made. Nothing concerning was found. So that status was closed. Any questions about that? Next one, verbal threats. On the 14th, Grosseal Middle School contacted the Detective Bureau regarding a 6th grade male student that made a threat to a 7th grade female student in the hallway. Male student was taken to the principal's office where a meeting with the school staff, a detective, and the student's mother was conducted. Student was suspended due to the threat made. Further investigation found that the threat was not credible and not taken seriously by the other party. That one was also closed. Suspicious activity. On the 7th of December, Grosseal Middle School principal contacted the Detective Bureau concerning a 6th grade male student drawing a picture of a weapon and writing of some vulgar words on a piece of paper. Meeting was conducted with the principal and the detective and the student and his mother. The investigation found that there was no threat to any student, staff member, or the school. An inquiry regarding any weapons in the student's residence was also conducted. No weapons are stored in the residence. The student was suspended and will return to school pending a counseling. Status is closed on that one. And the last one, cyberbullying. On the December 2nd, Grosseal School Administration Office contacted the Detective Bureau with concern over several TikTok accounts being used by students to bully other students or groups. Detective Bureau reviewed the accounts and found the content to be gossip. At the request of the superintendent, the Detective Bureau visited all 3 lunch sessions for the middle school on December 2nd to discuss cyberbullying. Discussed were examples of cyberbullying, mental effects of cyberbullying, social media sites, and outreaches and resources for students. All 3 grade levels were receptive to the presentation given. And lastly, ACO Course Redfield's report for the shelter and animal control. She stated December was a light month. They had 3 dogs come in. All 3 were returned to their owners. 6 cats came into the shelter, 5 were adopted. There were 2 reported dog bite on humans, and donations continue to come in through that month, and they are waiting on a few projects to be completed at the donor house on Meridian. And I believe you had some questions about the deer call.
Just a quick update.
Deer call is in, it's set, ready to go. Do you want me to give you an exact date? I can't give you an exact date, but it's in the very, very near future. We have 200 tags, and that's really all I can say about it.
That's fine.
Okay. Any other questions?
Anyone have questions?
Could I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Julie picked up 4 kittens and a mother kitten at my house.
Mhm.
Was wondering, and she told me one has been adopted. Are they still there?
I believe they are all adopted, but don't quote me on that,
Okay.
because I don't know. She only told me what she took in and what she adopted out for the month of December.
Okay.
She did tell me, Ms. With you, but,
We're so pleased.
yeah,
We
she,
saved some lives.
you sure did.
Yeah,
Sure
I'll
did.
give her a call.
So, and I can ask her tomorrow. I'll see her tomorrow and maybe have her give you a call.
All right, thank
Okay?
you very much.
All right. Yes, sir.
Real quick, did the deer call time frame go from January to March? Or did it change?
It is not January to March, no.
Not anymore?
Well, it never, you're talking about last year, right? Yeah, we had,
I think they gave us permits and they were good from January to March. I just wondered, did the time frame change or?
it did change, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mm.
Thank you, Todd.
Mhm.
Okay, liaison report.
So, not a lot to report. We only had one action item at the last board meeting agenda, and it was pulled from the agenda. I think the only thing really worth mentioning was I reiterated the 4 conditions of our acceptance of a one-time deviation from the interview process and emphasize the importance of open meetings, even though it's my understanding that the meetings for the subcommittee are going to not be open to the public. And I guess the only other thing worth reporting, since that meeting took place, the board members received a letter from an attorney representing the Groseal Taxpayers Association that takes exception with the deviation for 6710 period, and especially the plan not to conduct the subcommittee's interviews open to the public. So you'll probably hear more about that tonight, I'm sure. But that's really the only things that have happened at the board level since last we met.
Yeah, I believe that letter,
I think it went to the commissioners
yeah,
too,
I believe,
as well.
did all of you get a copy of that? Okay. Okay, anything else?
That would be it.
Anything for the reserve report, or did I miss that? Oh, there he is. I'm sorry.
Evening. So for tonight, short report for December 2021. Reserve and cadet hours, the reserves were 21.5 hours, which is expected through December with, our officers visiting family. The cadets did have 0 hours for the month. And then for December's event, we had the Island Glow. So we participated in working that. And then we still have Officer Atala that is still in the FTO program, which is he's doing really great, working out. So continuing with that as well. Coming up in March, soon we'll start discussing the Rock CF run is going to be coming on the 30th, which will be a Sunday at 8 a.m. So we are making communication with those folks as well to try to make sure that the map that they have is laid out correctly, and everything will be okay for that. That's really all I have for tonight.
Very good. Anyone have any questions?
Thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir.
Really appreciate it.
I wanted to go over the, before I did the budget, the training report real quick. We had a lot more training for the month of December. So you can see in the front line, Officer King, for the next couple of months, you'll probably see his name on the training report, more catching up to the training of what the other officers have. Dispatcher Erd went to the Michigan Sex Offender Registry. It was a virtual navigation of using the new program. Last year they switched to the sex offender program. So we're updating all 4 dispatchers on virtual training, and Officer Secretaris. So he's our lead for the sex offender registration right now. AJ did his, Officer Benson did his monthly SWAT training, which consisted of handgun and rifle qualification, mobility, speed skills, and accuracy drills. And I wanted to touch on the ALICE training that the school participated in. All the schools had a half day where the teachers participated in ALICE training, which is alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate. As part of that response, you'll see that Detective Vasquez went to one school, Detective Dartniak went to another one. We had an officer at each school during their training, so we can have interaction between the police department and the schools while they're having their training, so we can get a better understanding of each side. The officers observed mostly, and they participated or answered questions when they were asked. But it was primarily done by their instructors. Myself and Mrs. Hancock participated in MCOL's mitten training, just giving us access to the administrative duties on the MCOL side. It was a 4-hour virtual training. And Officer Kiriko had 2 trainings. He had a drug identification course, And then he had his monthly canine training, which consisted of 4 hours and 5 days of training with his dog Atlas. So I want to make sure I put that stuff out there. Any questions on that? Now here's the budget line items. So this is as of today. So I wanted to highlight. Everybody's asked about the overtime. So there's our overtime. We're at 139% of our budgeted overtime, which is 102,000. So we're 39,000 over that for the overtime. And how that can be explained is we had 2 officers off on long-term medical. 1 officer was off on family medical leave act for a long period of time, and just a whole bunch of us getting COVID over the last year.
Discussed that before.
Yep. Just want to reiterate that. But if you look at for the year total, I think we have about 12 weeks, roughly, until we're done with this budget, and we're at 85%. So we're still under budget, and we do have some upcoming expenditures, but that's where we're at. So is there any questions directly to any line items or the overall budget where we're at? So hopefully the overtime will slow down with everybody being back, but as we all know, COVID spiking. So, all right. And no other questions? All right. Thank you.
Everybody's fine. Well, we had a light agenda, we figured that, so we're to public comment. So anyone out there in the audience that would like to make a comment or talk? Kathy, do we take care of your questions?
That's pretty much, the other thing Mike brought up, I think that will come out eventually. I'm kind of disappointed that we can't, it won't be an open meeting for the interviews.
Again, the police commission interviews will be open, but it's a subcommittee interviews.
Yes, the official police.
Right.
Not the unofficial.
Correct.
Oh, before you, Greg. Bob, you have anything?
Not at this moment, no, unless something comes up in,
Mr. Flavin, right? And I'm sorry, the gentleman in the back, you all set, or,
Yes, sir, I thank you.
and yours?
All set.
Okay.
Parmesan. I'm here as a taxpayer, homeowner, and also representative of the Grosse-Ile Taxpayers Association. As Commissioner Jarecki mentioned, we did send a letter to the Township Board and the Police Commission expressing concerns that we have about the proposal of the Supervisor Budney to conduct interviews in in a private setting in Township Hall for the what we, I guess, are describing as a preliminary step to consideration by the Police Commission. We've actually retained an attorney who's done legal analysis on this, who believes that a committee or a delegated body that's created to do the work of another public body, which the Police Commission clearly is a public body, cannot meet in private to conduct hiring interviews. Even if they're not a decision-making body, if they're an advisory body, the process of vetting and reducing the number of candidates is considered a decision that would trigger the Open Meeting Act requirements of meeting in public. So we wanted primarily the commission and the Township Board to understand that's our legal analysis, our position. We're providing that in a spirit of cooperation and transparency, encouraging the full disclosure this type of information, because we believe that hiring a police chief is, I mean, the position of police chief is one of the most important, powerful positions in this township. And to the extent that citizens want to understand and have a right to understand how that hiring decision is made, we think it's critically important and under the rule of law in the state required that those hiring that hiring process be publicly disclosed when there's interviews involved. So we fundamentally are just putting that information in your hands to make your own decisions as a public body, and we support the police commission's handling of this hiring process that historically has been done under Township Ordinance 6710. We think that the police commission, given your capabilities and qualifications as commissioners of following the police department month to month, you're better positioned than any other group in the township to understand the requirements of the police department for leadership. And we would like to see you continue to do that historic role, which my understanding is that's 6710 process has been used for approximately 50 years and has achieved outstanding results. And quite honestly, and our letter explains it, we don't see any evidence that there's a merit to change the process that's been used so successfully over the years. I've also done some research on this, and as you know, I've been at the past police commission meetings to talk about this issue, and I know the supervisor has raised some concerns about a couple issues which he believes required this deviation. But to the extent that there is any documentation to underpin his concerns, I haven't found it yet. And I'm specifically talking about the issue of bias that he raised. I don't find any evidence of bias in any of the decisions this police commission has made in its recommendations over the years for hiring, and specifically in this most recent hiring process. I find no evidence of that. He's also raised the issue of possible violations of the Open Meetings Act. And while technically there was a requirement that interviews be done in the past, like they are currently, in public setting, from what I understand from talking to many parties that are involved, the police commission had never been previously advised by the township manager, who's also the human resources director, and I'm talking about the previous one, not the current one, that there was a requirement to do any interviews in a public meeting. Similarly, you were not advised by the commission liaison, who is also an attorney, the previous commission liaison, who's an attorney and also had been involved in the police commission for many years. And there was no information that I can find that this police commission was ever asked to conduct hiring interviews in public. So to the extent that there's been allegations that the commission has violated the Open Meetings Act, I can find no evidence of that, and certainly no willful evidence of that. In fact, what I can say is, having attended these meetings, in October, you did have a discussion in a public meeting about your recommendation, and it was done in a public session. So to the extent that you've been required to meet an obligation under the Michigan Open Meetings Act, as far as I can find in researching this, you've actually met that. You've done your required duty. So to look at the issues that would merit, according to the supervisor, this deviation from this process of Ordinance 6710 that's worked so well over the decades, I simply cannot find any evidence of any merit to doing it differently. And, you know, from an organization standpoint, our group has looked at this, looked at the legal opinion, and we, you know, strongly support the police commission's ability and you know, would ask that you consider in your actions going forward that as of now, we don't see a reason for you to do anything differently than you've done in the past, but that's your prerogative to interact with the township board in the way you see fit. But just, we want you to understand that from our research and from our legal analysis, you do not have an obligation to do anything differently than you've done in the past when you're making your hiring decisions, or recommendations rather, to the township board, which ultimately we all recognize they're the ones that make the final decision.
Was there a question in there before I say?
No, no question. I'm just explaining the purpose of the letter, and you know, and again, you know, we think we've said this every time we've come to these meetings. You know, we really do appreciate all you do for the community. You know, you're volunteering your efforts to be on this commission and to understand the police department and its needs. And you know, we have a lot of trust in the individual commissioners that are on this body, and you've demonstrated considerable success in your careers and your professions and your tenure on the island. You know, your reputations, and I think you should feel confident that you represent the citizens of this island when you're doing this hiring review and interviews. That you know, notwithstanding anything that you know has been said about your past work, that the citizens of this island strongly support the work that you're doing, and we want you to understand that we're going to be there to support you in whatever recommendation you make. And at this point, we fully understand that this current process that we're in, notwithstanding your past recommendations, we're in a new process that's ongoing. So whatever recommendation you make, no matter who it is, our group, the Grosse-Ile Taxpayer Association, is there to support the Police Commission's recommendation.
Okay, excuse me, I appreciate your comments. Some of the issues you talked about there, the position of the Police Commission is on record with the township, so I don't think there's any need to go over any of those from the board level or commission level here. And at this point, we'll probably defer anything specifically to the township attorney based on, you know, your letter. And so, you know, official comments based on what was in your letter that was sent out will probably all be funneled through the township attorney. At least that's my assumption. So, anyone else have a comment on anything Greg has brought up?
No.
I'd just like to thank you for your support. So, you and the entire group. So,
Okay.
Okay.
Is that it?
That's it. Keep up the good work.
Up, and that's just in time.
I think you're a little laxed on the 3-minute rule.
Well, I've been trained by Joey. He gets as much time as he wants. Did you raise your hand, Bob?
Yes, I did. Bob Zalasko, Blauvelt. I'm just looking for a yes or a no. I'm not looking for a discussion. Does our present roster still contain positions for 17 certified police officers?
I'd have to defer to Doug right here now.
You mean as in funding?
In other words, we have three management, 2 detectives, DEA, 1 sergeant, 10 road patrol.
Currently, we have the 2 sergeants.
I'm not asking for the oh, okay, two. I don't mean if they're filled, but do we still have a roster with those descriptions on them? Are we still holding to?
I'm not sure how the overall salary budget is budgeted for this past year, and we're still in the 21 budget. So I know we do have openings for positions where we're short on the road, which will push people up or down.
There has been discussions based of, the way the budget was set up in this past year. Obviously we've had some fluidity in the personnel that have been in these positions, and Mike, I know, was involved in the conversations on the budget a year ago. So unless you have anything to say, Mike, I'd have to tell you, we'd have to get back to you.
Okay,
Say that no positions have been eliminated,
okay,
period, but there isn't budget to fund all of that.
that's the reason for the question. But as of right now, none of the positions have been described as being eliminated.
Never been a vote to eliminate them.
Okay,
And, that also falls under chapter 67. I don't think it's 6710, but somewhere in 67, that's covered.
the roster is covered in
Well,
6710?
just the responsibility of who's
Oh, okay, okay,
supposed to do what.
all right. Question is answered. Nothing has been eliminated at this time. Thank you.
Kevin Flavin, Park Lane. I would just like to say that I fully support Groseille Taxpayer Association, and at the last board meeting, Mr. Budney said that the commission was biased, and I found that to be just unbelievable that he would say that, and I think it's more a case that he's biased against the process. And having read the letter that was put together by the attorney for the Groseille Taxpayers Association, I think there is a case that the bias may be among Mr. Budney, Mr. Nadeau, Ms. O'Connor, and Mr. Bletcher. I think there's a bias there, and it's probably been going on for a number of years. I ask that the township, the people that live here, really, if they can, pay attention to what is going on. Anytime that a supervisor and 4 votes on that board, anytime that they have to do things in secret, anytime that they don't have open and transparent meetings, and they do it in secrecy and silence, there's nothing right there. There is something wrong with that, and I hope everybody will see that what's going on, and ask Mr. Budney and his other votes, make them stand up and explain what they're up to. And I'd like to thank the board very much for all that you do, and for for the board over 50 years, as has already been said. You have done a great job picking out, when you were given the opportunity by the board, of picking out excellent chiefs of police and making our community a safest place in Michigan. So thank you very much for all you do.
Appreciate your comments. I assume that you're making the same comments to the township board.
Yes, sir.
He certainly did.
I apologize, I didn't see the last one, so.
It was playing at 6 tonight. So we play it.
Oh,
Just started tonight.
very good.
You can hear Mr. Flavin doing exactly that if you like.
Anyone else have any comments? Jessica, are you enjoying yourself? Huh? Yes. Okay. Doug, Todd? Anyone else at the commission level have anything to say?
Motion to adjourn?
Support?
All in favor?
Aye.
Michael?